It's summer is here. The fly hatches are over with. You'll get a few midges and maybe a few mayflies. They never stop coming out all summer. That's what helps the walleye survive the summer heat. There's some different rigs you can use. In a bottom bouncer time of year, you could drag heavy whistler jigs. These have UV. Add a chunk of crawler on the back or minnow. This time of year, they still eat minnows. If you get shiners, golden shiners work really well, or a fathead, especially if you're going in the weeds. You could drag it, pull it along the weeds. It's a bottom bouncer time of year. Let me show you a bottom bouncer rig here, and most people know what that is. Here's a typical bottom bouncer. It's a big wire bouncer. 2 ounces is pretty much the mainstay everywhere because you can go in any depths from 10 to 20, 30 feet. And I'm using Northland spinners, like a rainbow spinner. I have a cool little spinner here that they're going to have out. It's a little slower spinning type of spinner with a worm hook. But I always like to bring a bunch of different spinners. I'll have them on a noodle. You don't want a bunch of garbage in the lake, so take your spinners out. Don't wreck your kid's noodle. Go out and buy a noodle and wrap your spinners on there and try a bunch of different things. I'll take a rainbow spinner and use that. Sometimes I'll add a pill float to it, but have a bunch of spinners. And you don't need to use those big bottom bouncers. Little rock runners work just fine. Here's an 1.5 ounce. Try different colors and they slide on your line. You could use them for live bait rigging. It's that time of year where you can fish the way you want. Most of the bite has been on the rocks or the weed lines. Here's a ripping shad. These things rattle. Just throw it out there and rip it and let it fall back. You could double rip it, and that's going to catch a lot of walleyes, but catch bigger ones on that, not so much the eaters. And then, of course, one of my favorite ways to fish, I don't know if it's a pan fisherman in me, I like using a slip bobber. Let me bring that down to you here. A light bite slip bobber. You'll see I have a little bullet sinker and a good 2.5 feet of line to an RZ jig. And what I'll do is if I see some fish and they're not biting, I'll drive over them and drop it on them and go past them a little bit, and then that leech or that minnow will drop down right in front of the fish. You know, it's been known as speed corking since I can remember. I just call it a good way to put bait in front of the fish. And as far as measuring depth, use your rod as a good tool to measure depths. Here's a St. Croix fishing rod. This is a Icon rod. This is a 7.5 foot rod. And so if your knot is at the bobber tip and your hook is at the bottom, you're at 7.5 feet. So double that and you've got 15 feet just like that. So good way for speed, figuring out the depths. And then thumper heads are another thing. I've been known to have too many fishing rods in the boat, but they have that little barb that keeps the crawler on. I catch a lot of fish on that in Leech Lake. You could use it anywhere on the rocks. Anything around Pelican, the main lake, all the little rock humps have fish, and some of the rock points are still carrying fish. Here's another one I love, a puppet minnow and jigging wraps. You can't beat it. I got a little puppet minnow natural perch there. You could pitch that like a jig. Just get up on the rock pile. If you want to, cut that front hook off so that you don't snag, because that's the first thing that goes under stuff, and pitch it out and hop it just like a jig. There's no magic. You can walk the dog, you can do this and that. Just jig it. Something's going to hit it. But don't use any puppet minnows or jigging wraps or twitching baits unless you got safety in the boat, side cutters. That's probably one of the #1 baits that ends up in people because it has hooks all over the place. So don't fish with them unless you have that, because you got to cut the hooks if it goes in your hands or clothing. When you find the rocks, drop down an aqua view if you want. I always bring it because that tells you what's down there. You'll notice this one has a big fin. It's weighted, so I can go fast and the camera doesn't shake. It just goes smooth. Then you could hook this up forward or backwards if you want to watch your line or go along. But this AquaView HD is great for, this is what a really good way to see what's down at the bottom. I'm a fishing guide. I want to know what's down there. If they're suckers, if they're not biting, then we pull the AquaView out. So I always keep that in the boat, the HD AquaView. And minnows, I'll show you what a golden shiner looks like. That's a golden shiner. Now in Leech Lake, golden shiners now are in just about all the lakes. And they're a great bait, a great source of protein for walleyes, and they like eating them. But it looks like a Cisco, looks like a regular lake shiner, put that on a jig and rip it. But anything with a spinner is going to be your best bet. Have a nice bubbler like this Frable bubbler so that your minnows will stay lively. But get on the lakes. Just remember, crankbaits are starting to happen. So bring your crankbaits with and troll. Morning and evening are really good. A lot of cool resorts on Leech Lake and great shops in the town of Walker and all around the lake. The lake encompasses a lot of area. It starts out, Walker Bay is a really deep, cold lake. The east side of Leech Lake has a lot of vegetation, shallow, great for bass. There's so many different parts of that lake, it's just amazing. And so if you take a vacation there, you're going to love it because there's everything. We're fishing, I'm guiding for walleyes all summer, but you catch big pike, muskies, bass, largemouth, smallmouth, northern pike, bluegills, and crappies. And the crappies start biting in the summertime. Just fish the weeds and you'll catch some crappies. But right now I'm fishing little rock piles in the center of the lake, and those edges are holding fish. Can't tell you which one because I'm probably sitting there. But go out there and give it a try.